The October 13, 2021 meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals is now in session. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Arlington Board of Zoning Appeals, which is also known as the BZA. I'm Inta Malice, Chair of the Board. The Board is made up of 5 citizens appointed by the Circuit Court. In addition to myself, we have tonight Vice Chair Paul Melnick, members Judy Freshman, Portia Clark, and Lindsay Arthurs. Also present is the professional staff, including Cliff Hogan, Assistant to the Zoning Administrator, Blake Bowen, Board of Zoning Appeals Coordinator, Stephen Rissy, the Zoning Prim Supervisor, Arlova Vaughn, Zoning Administrator, Ann Golsky, Assistant County Attorney, and Patty Petrosini, Assistant to the BZA. Thank you for joining us this evening. Before we start, we will show a brief video that explains how the BZA makes its decisions and how we will conduct the hearing tonight. Adopted by the Virginia General Assembly and the Arlington County Board's Continuity of Operations Ordinance adopted in March of 2020. Before we call our first case, I will share with you some general information about the Board of Zoning Appeals and then some ground rules on how we will conduct our virtual meeting. The Board's powers are described in Virginia and are set out in further detail in the county zoning ordinance adopted by the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or to amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests with the county board. This board does have the authority to 1, you can approve use permits that allow modification of placement requirements for structures on 1 and 2 family lots. Some options for lot modification. 2, we can grant variances zoning ordinance, and 3, we can decide decisions of the zoning administrator. When approving use permits, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose conditions that are necessary in the public interest, including limiting the duration of the use permit. In order to approve a use permit, the law requires that the board find that the proposal meets certain conditions and that the use permit will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing in the neighborhood, will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood, and will not be in conflict with the purposes of the master plans and land use and zoning related policies of the county. To do this, the BZA shall consider 1, whether the modification will promote compatibility of development with the surrounding neighborhood because the structure's overall footprint, size, and placement are similar to the structures on properties surrounding the lot in question. And 2, whether the modification will help preserve natural landform, historical features, and or significant trees and foliage. When granting variances, the burden of proof is on the applicant to prove by preponderance of the evidence that the improvements meet the following criteria. Whether the strict application of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, or that granting the variance would alleviate a hardship due to a physical condition relating to the property, or the improvements thereon at the time of the effective date of the ordinance. Whether the granting of the variance would alleviate a hardship by granting a reasonable modification to a property or improvement thereon requested by or on behalf of a person with a disability. Whether the property for which the variance is being requested was acquired in good faith, and any hardship was not created by the applicant. The board also considers whether the variance granted will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and nearby properties in the proximity of the geographic area. That the condition or situation of the property concerned is not so general or recurring in nature as to make reasonably practical the adoption of amendment to the ordinance. That granting the variance will not result in a use that is not otherwise permitted on the property or change the zoning classification of the property. And that the relief or remedy obtained through the variance is not available through the special exception process as provided for under the zoning or subdivision ordinance. When deciding appeals of the zoning administrator, the board must use its judgment to determine if the administrator was correct. Now for tonight's meeting procedures. Staff reports for each case on tonight's agenda can be found on the BZA website. Staff has placed a link to the agenda in the chat section of the session. If you have not seen the report for your case, you may wish to review it before your item is called. Staff has also placed a link in the chat for supplemental material received after the staff reports were prepared. The order of our meeting is as follows. First, cases will be called and staff will give a brief report and provide their recommendation. Following that, board members will ask any questions of staff they may have. Next, applicants or their representatives will be given an opportunity to make comments to support the application or appeal. Then, if there are speakers for the item, we will call them one at a time. After we hear from speakers for and against the proposal, the board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points. The board may also ask questions of any of the speakers, but we do not permit and will not condone any cross-examination or direct questioning by others. We have deemed the following time limits for applicants and speakers to be sufficient. 20 minutes for applicants of appeal, 5 minutes for applicants of use permits and variances, 3 minutes for speakers representing organizations, and 2 minutes for those speaking as individuals. After the board has gathered all the information we need and has discussed the case, we will decide the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. A majority is needed to approve any motion. Any appeal from the decision of this board must be made to the circuit court in accordance with state law. Now here are some specific instructions about how this evening's virtual meeting will run. Tonight's meeting is available to stream from the county website via a Microsoft Teams link. There's also a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. If board members, presenters, or speakers lose internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you are called upon. Turn off any sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. For those joining via Teams, please turn off your video feed. Only board members will leave their cameras on. When called upon to speak, please turn your camera on and unmute yourself by clicking the microphone icon that is located on the meeting command bar. The moderator does not have the ability to unmute you. If you are dialing in by phone, press *6 to unmute. The meeting chat is active for presenters or board members who need technical assistance only. The meeting chat should not be used for discussion, public comment, questions about agenda items, or requests for more information. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public testimony period. For board members, if you wish to be recognized to speak on an item, please seek recognition verbally as usual. You also have the option to use the raised hand function. In either case, once you have been recognized, you may unmute yourself. All voting tonight will take place via roll call. Applicants and public speakers, you will be called upon by county staff at an assigned time. Pre-registration to speak at today's hearing was requested. We will accommodate any additional speakers only if time permits. Public comment will take place within the time frame stated earlier, the same as we would provide at an in-person meeting. During public comment, a speaking timer will be displayed on the screen by staff. If you are dialing in by phone and unable to see the screen, we will provide an audible warning when 30 seconds are remaining. You will be muted when your time has concluded. Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. After your case of interest is heard, you are welcome to stay for the balance of the session or leave at your convenience. This concludes the introductory remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. I would like to let everyone know that we have identified 4 cases that we will consider as a group. These are cases where the application is complete. There is a positive staff recommendation, and we know of no opposition to these applications. I will read off the 4 numbers for Mr. Bowen. It's V-11697-21-UP-1, V-11699-21-UP-1, V-11701-21-UP-1, and V-1700-21-UP-1. Will you call these items, Mr. Bowen?
Yes, Madam Chair. The first in our 4 cases is case number V-11697-21-UP-1. Is a use permit request by Chris and Ariana Ecker, the owners, to permit a street setback of 16.2 feet to the front porch, 15.4 feet to the porch eave, instead of 21 feet to the front porch, 19.5 feet to the porch eave as required, a setback of 16.3 feet to the rear deck from the rear property line instead of 21 feet as required, a setback of 2.3 feet to the deck from the left side property line instead of 5 feet as required, and to permit an aggregate side yard of 13.9 feet instead of 18 feet as required regarding a new front porch and rear deck expansion to an existing one-family dwelling in the R5 district on the premises known as 908 18th Street South. The second case is case number V-11699-21-UP-1. It is a use permit by Stacy Meyer and Stephen Pinchevsky, the owners, to permit a street setback of 11.6 feet to the front porch, 10.6 feet to the eave, instead of 21 feet to the front porch, 19.5 feet to the eave as required, regarding a new front porch to an existing one-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 722 24th Street South. The third case is case number V-11700-21-UP-1. Is a use permit request by Chad Hackman on behalf of Jonathan and Lauren Lyles, the owners, to permit a street setback of 15.5 feet to the porch, 15 feet to the porch eave, and 19.3 feet to the main roof eave instead of 21 feet to the porch and main roof eave, 19.5 feet to the porch eave as required from South Edgewood Street, and to permit a left side setback of 7.8 feet to the second floor bump out and 9.5 feet to the porch instead of 10 feet to as required from the left side property line, and to permit a right side setback of 8.4 feet to the porch, 5.5 feet to the window well instead of 10 feet to the porch, 6 feet to the window well as required from the right side property line, and to permit an aggregate side yard of 16.1 feet instead of 18 feet as required in the R6 zoning district regarding a new second floor addition, front porch, and rear porch on an existing one-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 405 South Edgewood Street. The fourth and final case in the group motion is case number V-11701-21-UP-1, a use permit request by Chad Hackman on behalf of Gabrielle and Mary Dunn, the owners, to permit a street setback of 17.8 feet to the porch, 16.8 feet to the porch eave instead of 21 feet to the porch, 19.5 feet to the porch eave as required, regarding a new front porch addition to an existing one-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 551 North Oakland Street.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. I see that all 4 of these applicants are in the participant list. Is there anyone here at this time that wishes to speak on any of these 4 items? All right. Hearing that there's no one here to speak, we are ready to consider these cases.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
I do believe that I see a hand in the participants list, a raised hand.
In the participants list. Mr. Papadopoulos, are you wishing to speak on any of these items?
Yes, I was looking to speak on the 2621 North Lexington Street application, please.
26. That is not one that we've called.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, that correct, Mr. Bowen. That is not one we called. We've called South Edgewood.
Oh.
We've called North Oakland. We've called 24th Street South and 18th Street South.
I apologize.
No problem. And now, okay, so we can put that hand down. All right, thank you. Colleagues? Are we prepared to move on these items? Ms. Freshman?
I would move that the 4 cases having been called by the staff for approval be approved. Do I need to read the actual numbers? No.
I don't think so.
No.
But
Okay,
you mentioned that
so the 4 courses that have been recommended for approval as mentioned by the staff to be approved.
I'll second it.
With the staff, Ms. Freshman, with the staff reports, I mean, with the resolutions, conditions as staff has outlined in each report.
Yes, please.
So motion by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Clark. And these are motions to approve all these use permits. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion to adopt all four of these cases passes 5-0. Mr. Bowen, will you call the next item, which is actually number 1 in our agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. The next case on the agenda is V-11672-21-VA.1. It is a carryover item, a variance request by Ola Kamara, the owner, to permit a main building footprint percentage coverage of 34.04% instead of 33% allowed for a one-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district with a qualifying front porch, regarding a new front and rear addition to an existing building on a corner lot in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2621 North Lexington Street. Staff initially recommended denial of this variance request as well as the associated use permit request. We have received supplemental materials from our applicant, Mr. Kamara, indicating that he would prefer a deferral so he can rework the project scope to be more in compliance with the zoning ordinance.
I see, and that's in the supplemental material. I see.
Yes.
Okay, and the all right, this supplemental material also includes some feedback from neighbors.
That is correct.
All right, so this is now a deferral.
Yes, and I believe, Madam Chair, that Ola Kamara, our applicant, is in the participants list in case you have any.
Right. Ms. Kamara, do you wish to speak to your application?
Yes, I can speak quickly. I've been trying to work with both Blake and Steven to get a app or be able to get something that they can approve zoning wise. So I would wish to get a little bit more time, and also considering what some of the neighbors have already said. So I will try to make a better proposal that is where it's not needed with variance, for example. So I would just ask a little bit more time so my architect can get all the drawings done.
Okay. To what date are we deferring?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Freshman.
I understand and appreciate the applicant's point of view. I think we have a very short, we don't have a whole lot of time till November, and we have a pretty full agenda, especially if our appeal is deferred. So perhaps December.
All right, you want to make a motion?
Madam Chair, before you make a motion, I will mention that we did have another speaker who didn't wish to speak. I'm not sure if he still wishes to speak.
Yes.
Not a deferral, but merits mentioning.
Is there a speakers list? All right, whoops. So is Miss Lundquist here?
Yes.
Welcome. Do you wish to speak on this item?
Well, I didn't realize there was going to be a deferral, so I'll just wait and see what the new proposal is.
Okay.
But I will say that there's no demonstrable hardship from this lot. There's 6 lots in the block between 26th Street and 27th Street. They're all the same size. And the only one of them that has a usable garage is actually Mr. Kamara's house, because it was a renovation and the builder chose to design the house with the 1-car garage. And as all of us know from living in Arlington, one of the sacrifices we make for living so close in is that most of us do not have a usable garage. And many, many people in Arlington park one, if not both of their cars on the street because there are a lack of garages.
All right. So it looks like we're going to consider a motion to defer this to December. Would anybody like to make that motion?
Yes, I will. In the case of V-11672-21-VA1, I move that the request for variance be deferred to the December BZA meeting.
I'll second.
Motion made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Melnick. Any discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye. Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Motion to defer this item to the December BZA hearing passes 5-0.
Charles Barkley is now, oh, sorry.
The chair didn't vote. And the date is December 8th.
Sorry, the chair votes aye. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, and it's the December 8th meeting?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Bowen, will you call the next item?
Yes, Madam Chair. The next case is the associated use permit for the variance request that you just voted on. It is case number V-11672-21-UP-1. It is a carryover item, a use permit request by Ola Kamara, the owner, to permit a setback of 19.2 feet to the porch, 18.2 feet to the porch eave instead of 21 feet to the porch, 19.5 feet to the porch eave as required from North Lexington Street, a setback of 10.4 feet to the wall, 9.3 feet to the eave, and 12.8 feet to the landing instead of 25 feet to the wall, 21 feet to the eave and landing as required from 27th Street North, to permit a rear setback of 8.9 feet to the porch instead of 10 feet as required, and to permit an aggregate side yard of 15.9 feet instead of 18 feet as required in the R6 zoning district regarding a new front porch and rear porch and side addition to an existing building on the corner lot in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2621 North Lexington Street. As with the variance we just discussed, the original request or the original recommendation for this use permit request was denial, but based on Mr. Kamara's supplemental material submission requesting a deferral, staff now supports the deferral till December as well.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen.
Mhm.
Any questions for staff? Does the applicant wish to, just ask if the applicant wishes to speak at this time? Or is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on this use permit? All right, Ms. Freshman, go ahead.
On the case V-11672-21-UP1, I move that the case be deferred to the December 8th BZA meeting.
I'll second it.
I think you were muted, Mr. Melnick, so Ms. Clark got in ahead of you.
Okay, that's fine with me. Sorry about that.
No problem.
That was very attentive to notice that, even with me muted.
I saw your lips moving. We have a motion made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Clark to defer this item to the December BZA hearing. Is there any further discussion? I will call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to defer passes 5-0. We'll see everyone in December. Next item, Mr. Bowen.
Madam Chair, I will actually be passing the reins to Mr. Rissy as we sometimes do. So Mr. Rissy will be joining you just right now.
I have enough trouble remembering not to call you Mr. Rissy, and then Mr. Rissy shows up.
We like to keep it interesting.
What do you got?
All right, Madam Chair, the next case is case number V-11695-21-UP-2. It is a use permit request by Zachary Williams on behalf of Eric Marion, the owner, to permit the removal of a wall in a workshop to turn it back into a non-conforming garage use. Regarding a garage in the R5 zoning district on the premise known as 735 21st Street South. Staff recommends the board adopt the attached resolution denying the subject BZA use permit request. An alternative resolution and conditions have been provided should the BZA see fit to approve the request as advertised.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
I just wanted to see whether or not I'm interpreting, the way I've read the staff report, it appears that we don't have jurisdiction. Is that what you're saying, or what is it? Maybe I'm misinterpreting.
I think staff's position is that really the request is for a change in use, which should not be accomplished through a use permit request.
Right.
But I'm sure the appellant, or the applicant, sorry, would like to discuss that in greater detail.
Thank you.
I have a question. So there was a structure built over this structure.
Correct.
All right. When it wasn't a garage.
Correct.
If it had been a garage, would this structure have been able to have been built?
Not by right.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff? All right. Is Mr. Marion here? Or he has an attorney, I think. Who is going to speak?
Yes, Zach Williams from Venable. I'll be representing Mr. Marion tonight.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, members of the board. Again, Zach Williams, land use attorney with Venable. I'm representing the applicant. And I have a brief presentation that I'd like to go through with you, and then we're
You have
available to
5
answer,
minutes. Is it
answer
5?
any. I'll be sure to be quick, and we'll here to answer any questions as well. Next slide, please, Steve. So as was just indicated in the staff slide, this is a corner lot in the South Arlington area, just to the west of Crystal City. And just to continue on, next slide. This is a picture of the house pre-2019. And this is important because the garage that is in question here can be seen in this picture. It's behind the vehicle there, and it was used as a garage. It had always been a garage, and it was a garage up through the BZA hearing that occurred in 2017 that we'll get into here. Next slide, please. This was the original proposal by the applicant. This was a use permit application that was made to get relief for certain setbacks. This was a much larger scope project than was ultimately built. I want to emphasize that staff recommended approval of this use permit, and staff noted in its staff report, the proposal would promote compatibility of development with the surrounding neighborhood because the overall footprint size and placement would be similar to the structures in the property surrounding the subject property. Therefore, staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit. The relief we're asking for tonight is less than we were asking for in that application. And staff recommended approval of that use permit. Now, I wasn't representing the applicant then. He was not represented by counsel. He was handling that application on his own, which I think is part of the reason that we ended up sort of where we're at. And I'll get more into that history. The BZA ultimately denied the request given lack of neighbor outreach. There were 2 hearings, and the BZA had indicated that there should be some more outreach done. And Mr. Marion, not being very familiar with the process, asked for a vote when he probably shouldn't have and got a negative vote. Next slide, please. So then Mr. Marion and his contractor and architect came up with a revised idea. And this was a by right addition, a much smaller scope. This is the plans for that project. This is what was built. This is the picture that you just saw earlier. Now, this is important. At the suggestion of county staff, the contractor advised Mr. Marion to install a temporary plywood wall in the garage and to call it a workshop, and that would allow him to build over that garage, a 2.5-story structure. This was not Mr. Marion's idea. He's not a land use attorney. He doesn't understand non-conforming structures. This was recommended to him. That allowed a by right addition. Next slide. These are the current conditions. The same garage that you saw in that earlier picture is still there. It's the garage in the foreground of the picture there closest to the street, except it's not a garage. It's a garage with a piece of plywood in it and a couple of 2x4s. Next slide. This is the critical provision of the zoning ordinance that I think got us into trouble here. As you all know, with the non-conforming structure, typically if we make structural changes to it, it loses its non-conformity. But there's an exception in certain zones, including this zone, that you can build over non-conforming structures, except not over encroaching garages. That's how the provision reads. Next slide, please. Now, this is what it looks like now. I would submit everyone knew this was a garage. Staff knew it, approved it. The permit was approved. The inspectors came in, saw this. Nothing was hidden. Everyone that saw this knew exactly what was going on, except for Mr. Marion. He had no clue why this mattered. He had no understanding of the technicalities of the zoning ordinance. His contractor said, I can put this in and you can build over top of it, and then we'll take it out afterwards. That's all he understood. Literally, it's a piece of plywood with a couple of 2x4s, and it was called a workshop by the county. That's where we are today. Next slide. The applicant seeks setback relief. This is important. We are seeking setback relief, not a use change. A 25-foot setback is required. We're asking for a setback to 17.6 feet. We're not asking for it to change the footprint. We're not asking to do any additional construction. The owner, again, not a land use attorney, followed staff's advice and now is in the predicament that he's in. We're asking for setback relief. If you had setback relief in the beginning, the non-conforming provision would be irrelevant. Doesn't matter. Next slide, please. I think we can all agree there's no impacts to any nearby neighbors, there's no change in the footprint. Staff acknowledges that there's no impacts and there's multiple letters of support in the record. That's the end of my time. I would say that Mr. Marion is here to provide a few thoughts as well. Is he allowed to speak for a minute?
Let's do it one at a time here. We'll start with seeing if there's any questions that we have of you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have questions? I have a few questions. I can start it off. It seems like in your letter to us, the applicant was aware that the contractor was doing something a little fishy. That the wall was being built so that they could get around a zoning ordinance, and that as soon as it was built, it could be torn back down. Is that how I read the your letter?
I don't think that Mr. Marion thought anything fishy was going on, but he was advised that this is a way to build this structure, add this wall in, which is obviously not a permanent wall. And again, the county was fully aware. I mean, the county approved the permit plans, saw it, approved it. And Mr. Marion followed the lead of his contractor. He's not a land use attorney or a contractor. So I think, you know, while it's certainly odd, I would submit it's just as odd that we're in the predicament we're in now for the average layperson to have a garage that you can't use because we have this funky wall up there. That allowed Mr. Marion to build something above the garage. It's a very esoteric zoning issue, but for the average layperson, I think they don't understand it and assume that the experts, the county inspectors, the county permitting folks, and the contractors are the ones that know what they're doing.
Do you disagree with staff's analysis of BZA powers?
Absolutely. We are asking for a use permit for a setback. This garage structure, the only reason that any of this had to happen is because the structure is closer than 25 feet to the road. So outside of the setback problem, none of this would have ever come up. That was the point of the use permit to begin with. So that was asking for a lot more relief than we ultimately tonight. So if we have, I'm sorry.
Do you disagree that a change of use is required to make this work?
No, this isn't a change of use. This is a setback. There's no use change.
But if you follow the analysis, a change of use is required in order for us to approve this.
No, I don't think so. Respectfully, if relief is granted for the setback, then that whatever you call it, piece of plywood can be removed, because we don't need that non-conformity provision to allow this construction to be legal if the setback relief is approved. A use permit carries the force of law, just like the zoning ordinance. So the non-conforming doesn't matter. Whether it's a workshop or a garage or whatever it is allowed in this residential zone. We're not asking for a use change. We're simply asking to be able to take out a temporary wall that's not serving any purpose.
Do you disagree that this could not have been built by right if that wall had not been there?
The structure as it exists today could not have been built by right. Correct. That's why we're here today.
Well, we could have been here. Go ahead. Other questions?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Melnick.
What I'm wondering is, it just seems like what we're being asked to do is nullify the rules about, what was done by right or not by right. That this was done, this interior wall was said that something can be done by right. And now it's being switched back. So effectively, you know, if we set a precedent here, we're nullifying, you know, the rules about by right. You know, if something was done that really shouldn't have been done. And what I am amazed about is you're saying that it was recommended by county staff, you know, effectively an end run. So do you have the name of the county staff person that recommended this?
I don't, because it was handled by the contractor, but respectfully, everyone knew this wasn't a garage. This should never have been approved. I'll be straight with that. Mr. Marion should not be in this position right now. County staff should never have approved that. That's not the way that provision is supposed to work. I think we can all agree. He's in a predicament. He's a victim of the esoteric vagaries of zoning and no fault of his own. And he should speak for himself. I think he's here and he could speak for himself.
We will let him speak, Mr. Williams.
But this is a incredibly odd predicament for a homeowner to be in Arlington County. Because what should have happened is that county should have said, no, you either need to get a use permit or you can't build this. You can't put a temporary piece of plywood in and call it not a garage and suddenly you can build over it. But that's in the past. We can't go backwards. So I would submit, Mr. Melnick, that you're correct. I mean, we don't want to set a precedent, but I would argue the precedent was set. Where we are today was caused by the county approving something that probably shouldn't have been approved. Right.
So, Mr. Williams, we have no way to sort that out. You know, whether what you assert the contractor did or didn't know, the contractor's not here, don't know who told what. You know, we don't know if the contractor decided to do this on his own or with staff advice. That's just information that we don't have here.
I don't think it matters. It was approved. It was fully approved permit.
Well, you were putting it on staff, that staff was doing something that they shouldn't have done.
Well, I mean, it shouldn't have been approved.
Well, Madam Chair,
Mr.
if I
Melnick.
could, it was approved because an interior wall was put up. And another way of looking at it is, if something's wrong, you know, or if something was done with sort of a bad intent to do an end run around the by right laws, then, you know, just because there's two people involved in doing it, and I think there's an argument. I don't know what the relationship was, and I haven't seen the agreements, but this contractor, it's possible that was acting as an agent of the owner, or didn't the owner wonder why there's a piece of wood put up? I think there could have been more investigation, but then I think we need to look at what the staff is pointing out about our authority. You know, we don't, as far as like removal of things, we're being asked to approve the removal of a temporary wall, effectively. And so I've been on the board since 2013. I've never had a use permit where we're approving the removal of something. This statute or the ordinance refers to our authority. It refers to placement, not removal. So I'd like to hear from you about why or how we have authority when this talks about modifications of placement requirements as opposed to removal.
Because the structure itself is a non-conforming encroaching structure. And so if there's setback relief provided for the structure, it doesn't matter what it is. The wall requirement is irrelevant. It doesn't matter anymore. And so I come at this just a different way. Ultimately what we're trying to do is remove a wall, but what we're asking the BZA, what the BZA's power and authority is to do, and the relief we're asking for is relief for a setback, which, as staff said in its original report and recommended approval of, is common in the neighborhood. And there are no impacts to any neighbors. I worry, how do we solve this problem for a homeowner?
Mr. Williams, the subject of this use permit is not placement, it's the removal of a wall, is what I'm reading.
I respectfully disagree. I took issue with the way that that was advertised when it was first advertised. I raised this issue. I thought this was going to lead to confusion, and it's leading to confusion because that's not what we're asking for. We're asking for
I don't think we're confused. I mean, I think we understand what's before us. But Mr. Williams, if you would like, we'd be happy to hear from the applicant, and maybe he can fill in some missing, some gaps.
Yes.
Is Mr. Marion still with us?
Yes, I'm here. Do you have questions for me, or would you like
Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I think I would just, follow on what Zach said. All of this was done at the recommendation of my contractor. When I spoke with my contractor, he said he had done this elsewhere on other jobs and that, it wasn't a big deal. The wall was temporary and it would come down fairly easily afterwards. So I had no reason to think there would be any issues with this. He said he would just, as he did, he filed a permit to remove the wall once the construction was done. And he went through that whole permit process, and I thought that it was going to go pretty smoothly. And then it obviously did not. So I'm not sure what happened. I know this was the advice of my contractor. I made it clear from the outset that I wanted to have the use of the garage, that I was not going to go through the process without having the use of the garage afterwards. So he assured me that the permit request would not be a problem.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Melnick.
So it just seems to me, that the redress ought to be with the contractor and not asking us, to effectively give our blessing or approve, of something that looks like it was done, just to get around the ordinance. If the contractor was at fault and did something wrong, then the contractor needs to answer for it. But I don't think that vest authority, especially under the way that this application was made, it doesn't really vest authority in us just because the contractor did something wrong. That's what I think.
Ms. Freshman?
Yeah, I would agree with Mr. Melnick's comments. I think if anything, it's Mr. Marion's the victim of bad advice from a contractor, and that's where his issue lies. And I would be interested, having listened to the representative and the applicant, I'm interested in if staff has any other comments with regard to the alleged setback request that is allegedly turned into a use permit to remove a wall.
From a staff perspective, I have a hard time understanding the use permit request. The addition above the garage didn't need a use permit to be built because they put up the wall and built it by right. I find it hard to apply for I don't know how you can apply for a building permit for something that was built by right. The wall itself, as Mr. Melnick mentioned, they're asking for removal, but even if we were to, talk about the setback to the wall itself, it's beyond the 25 feet from the street, so it doesn't seem to be an issue with a setback to the wall itself. And the wall itself is the issue here because the permit for the wall was approved. The permit to build the addition on top of the workshop was approved. The only thing that has not been approved is the removal of the wall subsequent to that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, the discussions with the board.
Are there any speakers? No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were
No,
there
I'm
any
just-
speakers?
I don't know that. I just wondered. They're neighbors.
There's, Mr.
No.
Rissy, are there?
I don't
No.
believe we had anyone sign up.
No speakers.
Okay.
Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on this item? All right. So it's back to the board.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Melnick?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
All right.
Okay, so in case V 1169521 UP2, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals deny the subject BZA use permit request.
Second,
Pursuant to the denial resolution in the staff report.
thank you. Second,
All right. We have a motion made by Mr. Melnick, seconded by Ms. Freshman to deny this application. Is there additional comment? I will call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. So the motion to grant the use permit is denied. I think the parties need to figure out what the next steps are to make this right, but this one wasn't the one that worked for us. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Mr. Who's up? Mr. Rissy, are you up? You're muted. Are you up?
It's actually going to be Blake. For
Okay.
the record, though, I will mention that case number V-11697-21-UP-1 was approved with a group motion at the head of the hearing, as was case V-11699-21-UP-1, as was case V-11700-21-UP-1, as was case V-11701-21-UP-1, which brings us to the next case, V-11702-21-UP-1, which I'll turn it over to Blake for.
Thank you, Mr. Rissy.
Hello
Welcome
again.
back.
Thank you. I was mere feet away. Our next case, as Stephen mentioned, is V-11702-21-UP-1. It is a use permit request by Evelyn Rodriguez and Alexander Benjamin Gutierrez, the owners, to permit a street setback of 16.1 feet to the wall, 15.1 feet to the eave, instead of 25 feet to the wall, 21 feet to the eave, from North Venable Street as required, and to permit a left side setback of 4 feet to the screened AC units instead of 5 feet as required, regarding a rear one-story addition and screened AC units on the existing one-family dwelling on a corner lot located in the R8 zoning district on the premises known as 6815 27th Street North. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. I ask that the board please note that supplemental material for this case came in after the application package was assembled and printed.
Could you describe the supplemental material?
Yes, we received a request to speak at the hearing from a neighbor as well as several photographs from that same neighbor.
All right. Any questions for staff? All right. Is the applicant with us?
Yes, we are here.
All right. Welcome.
Yes, we're here.
Thank you.
All right. I hear you. I don't see you yet, but sometimes it takes a minute. There you go. Okay. I see you now. Would you like to tell us about your application?
Yes, well, first I would like to apologize if I get disconnected, but I'm not in my house right now. I had a family emergency and I am out of the country. Yes, our
We've lost audio.
She's on mute.
Yes, Ms. Rodriguez, I believe.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, I apologize. Yes, as I was saying, if I get disconnected, my husband will continue because I am out of the country with limited internet due to a family emergency. So I just wanted to mention that we submit all the paperwork. We send the letters from 7 of our 8 closest neighbors in the community, and all of them, of the 7 of them, plus the Arlington East Falls Church Association, were agreed with our drawings and extensions, and they were happy supporting the plans. And some of the comments that they add regarding to our addition is that the addition will fit in our little community, and this addition will add great value to the neighbor, as many of the homes have already undergone similar improvements. As I mentioned, we submit everything. I remember the county requests some changes in the drawings. We made the changes, and as you can see from the house, the addition is to continue the setback, and it won't have any entrance from the cul-de-sac. The entrance will keep in the main entrance on the 27th Street. And we would like to have this approved in this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant right now? All right, Mr. Bowen, we have speakers.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have a speaker by the name of David Habiger.
All right, is Mr. Habiger here? Is Mr. Habiger here?
I believe he's joining by phone.
Okay.
And he may need to press *6 to unmute himself if that's the case.
Do you see him trying to log in?
I do not. I see one phone number without a name assigned to it, but I'm not sure if that's him. Madam Chair, I'm going to see if I'm able to call him into the meeting. That might be a possibility.
All right, we'll wait for that.
We have identified the email that we received from the applicant. It is just not loading, so sorry for the delay.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that, Mr. Bowen. You've done what?
Hello.
Oh, Mr. Habiger? Mr. Habiger?
Hello.
Are you there? We
Yes,
can hear
I'm
you.
here.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
All right. Would you like to speak on this item?
Yes, I would. Thanks for calling, by the way. What I wanted to do, and I submitted some photographs in support of it. I thought I would have them more sort of handy to show you. The point is that the area in question, the street intersection in question, is very small. In fact, my street, which is adjacent to the property in question here, is 120% bigger than a basketball court. And that's not very big for 5 houses and 19 people. And my concern is that this proposal is expanding the house that will increase the number of people who live there and probably increase the number of cars, which is definitely not something that's needed. And I wanted to make sure that the board appreciated the fullness of this. I've included a fair amount of information regarding the fire hydrant that is located right at that intersection. And now this intersection or these streets were planned in the late 40s for houses that were built in 1950 and 51. They certainly had no idea what was going to happen. Certainly had no idea that emergency equipment was going to increase in size the way it has. Amazon trucks, UPS, FedEx, anything like this. They had no way to think about that. So all this stuff is trying to move through this already small area. And this appeal, I think, includes spilling over into Venable Street for use as parking. I really don't see a viable alternative for doing that. So I think that they should at least address it in their application. And I saw no discussion of it in the documentation. So that's the key point that I wanted to get across. There's photographs of examples of vehicles clogging up that particular intersection. And I wanted to speak to them more distinctly, but I don't think I can quite coordinate it the way I would like to just on this phone. There is one photograph of a single white truck. Now there is a little bit of space up 27th Street, and that white truck happens to belong to a neighbor of mine who will put it there when he's having guests in. So he's a very nice guy and he's very thoughtful. In fact, most of the neighbors, frankly, are pretty thoughtful. It's visitors and delivery folks who cause the problem. But that doesn't alter the very significant fact that the county put the only fire hydrant for quite a ways right there. And over time, it has become ignored by visitors. And that's a very unfortunate thing. The county did come back and put in an additional no parking zone by the fire hydrant on Venable Street, which has improved it a little bit, but the proposal that the applicant brought forward very much appears like they will put a door that opens onto Venable Street, and I can't imagine someone not parking there and walking the 10 or 20 feet across the yard to get in. So that's my major concern, and I hope I've been able to get across the idea that space is at a real premium, and this idea doesn't address that subject at all. It just adds on more room and doesn't add space for the cars to come and go or to address that particular concern. Are there questions? I'm not sure of the format here, so I don't know whether to continue on or not.
We'll let you know if there's any questions that the board has of you. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, well, thanks for calling.
All right.
Can I make a presentation before you go, Mr. David? So since the beginning of this conversation, we clarified.
Wait a minute. Wait. What? Who's speaking?
Alexander Benjamin Gutierrez.
The applicant.
The applicant. You wish to what? Speak.
I just wish to clarify since the beginning, and one of the concerns of Mr. David was we're going to put some sort of entrance in the extension. So since the beginning, we would say that the main entrance of the house is going to be the one that we have right now. So it's just an extension for living in a space. It's no more families coming to live here. No more people is coming to live here. Actually, it's gonna be the two of us. My daughter is just leaving for college soon.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. No, I call on you when you want to speak. All right. So who wanted to speak? Ms. Rodriguez, did you wish to speak? Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, I raised my hand. I just wanted to say that if you see the drawings, we will keep 3 bedrooms as the house it is right now, and 1 family room or TV room that is close to the patio. And as my husband was saying, we're not planning to bring the entire family to live here, and we are just 3. Well, my mother just passed away, and my father is coming to live with us half of the year, and another half with my brother who lives in Marco Island, Florida. So that's the reason why we are doing this extension. As you can hear from my accent, States. We just moved 22 years ago to the United States, living here, and I.
And his main concern for cars clogging the Venable Street is my concern as well. So many people just park the cars over there.
Okay. All right. I think we've got that part of it. Any board members, colleagues, do you all have any questions that you have on this application? All right. Ms. Arthurs.
I'm prepared to make a motion if everybody else is done discussing.
You have the floor.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit V-116702-21-UP-1.
Second.
All right, motion made by Ms. Arthur, seconded by Ms. Freshman to grant the use permit with conditions. Any further discussion? This seems to be a proposal that is, according to staff's analysis, not dissimilar to other dwellings in the neighborhood. So I personally think this is an approvable application. I will call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to adopt the use permit is passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Mr. Bowen, are you up for the next item?
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. Just to make sure if I hear correct, is that has been approved?
It has been approved.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, so I will now read the advertisement language for the appeal, and then I will pass it along to our zoning administrator as well as our assistant county attorney. The next case on the agenda is case number B-11703-21-APP-1. It is an appeal by Ryden Beeble on behalf of Clarendon Regency 4 LLC, the owner, and District Dogs, a tenant, of the zoning administrator's determination that the boarding of 3 or more dogs is not permitted on an overnight basis on a lot located in the C-0-1.5 zoning district on the premises known as 2801 Wilson Boulevard, RPC 18-010-016. Staff recommends that the board defer the subject appeal to the October 20th, 2021 BZA hearing. Please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packets was assembled and printed.
Thank you. Any questions for staff, or do you want us to go to Ms. Vaughn now?
Yes, I believe Ms. Baum is joining us, as well as Ms. Golsky from the County Attorney's Office.
All right. So are we going to hear from both parties tonight? Are both parties here?
I do see Mr. Beeble is joined.
Yes, hi.
All right. And you are
I am the appellant alongside
District
Jacob
Dogs?
Hensley. Yeah, and I think Jacob's on too.
Okay. So staff is recommending an appeal. So I guess if you all want to make a statement, if Ms. Vaughn wants to make a statement, we can hear from her. Is Ms. Vaughn with us?
She may not be here. I'm seeing at the very bottom that she is not joining us, but I do see Ms. Golsky is here.
All right, Ms. Golsky, would you like to speak to this application?
I can, except that I think we were going to be speaking about perhaps moving it back to be heard at another time.
So you have no presentation tonight?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay.
And
Okay,
I
no,
think
that's
Ms.
not.
Bonham is going to be appearing. I think she may just not be here yet.
Well, here it's now is when we're here. Let's see. I'm sorry. Your name is, you are?
My name is Ryan.
Ryan. Oh, Beeble.
Yes.
All right. And you're here on behalf. Do you have anything you want to say at this time?
We're ready to go, but if staff and the county attorney wanted to defer it, then October 20th works for us.
How about November 13?
Blake, was that the date, or Ann, you proposed a date in November that did not work for me. Was that the 13th or was that another one?
Madam Chair, I believe the regular November hearing is November 10th.
Oh, is it? Sorry, November 10th? I apologize. Can you come to our November hearing?
November 10th. I hate to say I need to check with my wife, but I might have to. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I'll be able to make it happen. This is important.
All right. And Ms. Golsky, can you be prepared on November 10th?
Yes, Madam Chair, of course.
All right. Colleagues, if there are any questions that you want the applicants to consider when they come back, based on what you've read, you may ask those questions now. Otherwise, we can move to a motion to defer. Any questions? I have one quick question. Is this a prospective determination? In other words,
It's an act of determination. So at that time, Jacob and District Dogs were considering leasing this space. But is that the question, whether or not they're,
Yes.
they're prospective or actual? So
right.
since that time, they signed the lease, figuring that they think they'll be able to make it work with the daytime services and no more than 3 dogs at night. So he's an actual tenant now of the building.
Right. Okay.
He's not in there yet because plans are finishing up in about a week and then we'll be submitting for a permit. But as of right now, he's going to be a tenant and the plan is to limit the number of dogs to 3 overnight and hope that we are successful when we get a chance to make our presentation.
Okay. That's very helpful. Thank you. Colleagues, shall we move to a deferral motion? Ms. Freshman?
Yes, in the case of V-11703-21-APP2, I move deferral to the November 10, 2021 BZA hearing.
I second.
Seconded by motion made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Arthurs to defer this appeal to our November 10, 2021 hearing. Is there any further discussion? Did Ms. Vaughn never arrive?
So, Madam Chair, I think that was a miscommunication on our part. I think she was thinking that I would be here in her stead. I apologize for that confusion.
We're not holding it against her. But thank you.
Sure.
I'm glad that that's the case, so
Yeah.
that we don't miss anything that she wanted us to know.
Right.
All right. Motion made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Arthurs to defer to November 10. I will call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to defer carries 5-0. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in November.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. That was our last case, Mr. Bowen.
Yes,
Next item of business is to approve the minutes. I have one question. It's on the very last item, the appeal. It does not have a record of the vote, and I wondered if that should be part of the.
It says it was seconded by Ms. Arthurs and passed 5-0.
Oh.
Right above the resolution.
Do I have a different? That can't be. Okay, I'm looking at the September 22 minutes on page 12. On page 12.
So at the second paragraph. The last sentence.
Oh. Sorry. Got it. Looking in the wrong place.
I move approval of the September 22, 2021 minutes.
Second.
All right. I'll call the roll. Mr. Melnick?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. Clark?
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Minutes past 5-0. I can't even use the late hour as an excuse for that.
No worries.
I guess I was just reading the bottom of the resolution. You're still perfect, Mr. Bowen.
Phew. Okay.
Anything else we need to talk about? It's only 8:25.
No, bye-bye. Happy to see you all. Happy to say bye-bye. Very glad that we were able to move the appeal. I think the impression that there was actually a choice as to when it was going to happen, not okay. It's not a choice when we set aside backup date. And, you know, I understand it may have to be advertised, but that doesn't mean it should be just anything can be plugged into it. So this is, you know, regardless of his issues with his wife, I think it's really much better that we can stick to our regular schedule and hope that November, you know, runs as smoothly as this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Good job, Mr. Bowen.
Thank you. And Mr. Risti is doing a lot behind the scenes, so
Just
please
makes
extend,
all, you know,
extend it well.
good staff work makes our job easy.
It's true. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
See y'all.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
you.
everybody.
You too, Portia. How you
Thanks. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
feeling? You feeling
Ms.
okay?
Malice,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, do you want to formally make a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yes. Our agenda having been concluded, this meeting is adjourned.